Hey guys, Nando here, and today we're going to be doing a vanilla playthrough of Fallout 4, so you can follow along. Okay, I lied. This is not vanilla at all. In fact, I think we're running at least 40 mods. But that is better than 161. Yeah, that playthrough was awesome. But we're not doing 161 mods. The game will keep crashing, we'll need save mods, and it's gonna take a long time. So I thought I'd do as close to a vanilla playthrough as I could, or at least a modded playthrough that doesn't really affect the vanilla mechanics. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, I mean any mod that pretty much changes the way the vanilla mechanics work to a significant degree. The mods that can technically classify as altering the vanilla flow of the game would be... Excuse me. Jesus Christ. I'm already dying, and we haven't even started commentary. Coughing myself to death. The things that can count as altering the flow of the vanilla game are the laser, RCW, WH-77, the Bay K5C, the Chinese porn suit, and what else? West Tactical Optics, multicolored flares. Those are the main ones that are pretty much going to alter anything. Vertibird Beacon, just because I can call Vertibird an unlimited amount of times, which pretty much just speeds up the mid-game. West Tactical Options, because I can see in the dark. The WH-77, because I now have a light machine gun that actually does some damage. The flares, because I can see in the dark again. And the Chinese porn suit, because I'm invisible. Those are the main things that are going to affect your gameplay. The AK-5C is actually really well balanced, which is surprising looking at the stats of it. And modern reticles is just so that the sights don't look like they're from the 1900s. They look a little bit more modern, and they make a little bit more sense. But speaking on balance, we're just gonna throw that out there. We're just gonna throw some numbers out there, because we only have 3 mods that affect the balance of the actual firearms in the game. And since it's only 3 instead of like the 12 to 20 that I had last time, it's going to be a lot easier to explain how this actually works on PC. In PC, we have such thing called Fallout 4 Edit, which allows me to view the damage of each gun, and also allows me to change a bunch of stuff. All the PC people already know what the fuck I'm talking about, or at least most of them do. The rest of you guys can actually just kind of sit back and take action for this one. So, I am not the most expert balancer in the world, but I did kind of take a little bit of reference from the Villainate game, and what I found was that the assault rifle base damage is about 30. The plasma rifle base damage is about 24 ballistic, and I think 24 energy. And the handmade rifle base damage is about 32. This is without mods, this is without modification, without perks, and just stripped of anything else. Now, if we go into our modded weapon list, the WH-77 I think started off at about 35, but then I switched the ammo type because I did not want everything using 5.56, so I switched to the 5mm, and then I dropped the damage from 35 to 28. I might have to drop it even further because of a few other reasons to keep it in balance. But that's what we got so far, so it's under the assault rifle for damage. I might need to drop it to, I might not need to drop it anymore, but I might, just in case the JSP rounds screw with everything. I don't even know. I don't know what's going on. The lazy RCW. Yeah, the lazy RCW does 22 damage because it's lazy, what do you expect? And the AK-5C is absurdly balanced because it only does 28. And although I don't think it changes too much from automatic to the fire mode for it, it still doesn't do any game-breaking damage when you don't have the damage modifiers on, which I do not, so it pretty much just feels like it's part of the game. Speaking of stats, we kind of come back into a few of the things that you want to look for if you're starting your first playthrough of survival, and that is loot, materials, meds, and ammo, which, if you put that all in order, ends up being meds, ammo, materials, and loot, mainly because meds, chems, and ammo directly affect your survivability, along with materials giving you the ability to increase the damage of your weapon or increase the armor class that you currently have, and the loot pretty much gives you more weapons, more money, more armor, and such gives you more survivability. Now, I know you might be asking, why the hell would I even focus on everything else if I can just loot it all? And the thing that comes into mind is, well, the first 3 you loot anyway, so rip. And the second thing is, you don't always get the weapons you want when you loot, because it's pretty random what you get depending on which types of enemies you kill. So if you know who you're going for, you can get some good stuff. You can also get some mediocre stuff. Some of it seems to be affected by luck. Some of it seems to be a bit of script anyway. So I mainly just try and stick with the weapons that I have and try and modify the crap out of them to fit the situation that I'm doing. Materials also allow you to modify your armor, which also makes stuff a lot easier, because if I can take more bullets, I can take more bullets. Baby, that's how it go. But luck does help. I have found in my own playthroughs that if I have just 2 points more luck, so if I have 1 luck, I get really bad spawns. And I also didn't get as much meds. I pretty much get a quarter of the meds that I usually get. But having just that 1 or 2 points extra pretty much flips my spawns around. So I don't know what the hell goes on with Fallout 4. I think it just decides to have a period whenever the fuck it wants to. But having more luck does help you out. Now, do you need it? Not really. Is it useful if you're running a balanced character like I am right now? Yes, it is very useful. But a thing to consider, especially since we're at this part of the game and you still have your Pip-Boy, is what perks you want, and whether or not you want to go for a strength build that gives you all the carry rate in the world, or if you want to kind of go for whatever build you kind of want to go for. And that directly leads into the next thing of whether or not you want to be Power Armor Fusion Core Hunter.net or Drugs.com, which boils down to armored and unarmored gameplay. If you're doing armored, have fun trying to find all the fusion cores, which in the starting level it's pretty straightforward, and then the later levels it gets a little weird because some of them you might be lucky enough to find a stack of 3 in a container and you'll be set, or you will have to pretty much dive in a bunch of ruins to get the extra ones. I know at the start of the game you can probably get about 6 or 7 without trying too hard, just by knowing where the locations are, but the rest of them you're kind of on your own. You kind of gotta search through pre-war ruins to find them. There's probably a guide out there to find all the fusion core locations by now, but in the meantime, this is what we got for playstyles. The Power Armor one is counterintuitive because it actually is a lot faster to go through because you can take more shots to the face, essentially. Whereas Drugs.com is a lot slower because there are a few enemies that are out of your league and drugs will not help you unless you happen to know a string of drugs that you can run that make you god tier for at least about a minute or 2. Because that's as long as most of the encounters for big bosses are going to last. They're going to last about 2 minutes. The only reason they last longer is if you don't have the right set string of drugs to actually use. So if you're doing drugs.com, I recommend getting chem resistant because I think you gain immunity to drugs, addiction to drugs at some point, and that is the most god tier superpower you can have as an unarmed build. Whereas PowerArmor.com, you really kind of just want, I think, a bunch of sciencey type perks. You're pretty much just going to be building a lot. And you're also going to be grabbing a lot of stuff to fix your armor and or build your base's defense up, or just build your armor up in general, which depending on which armor you have, the repair cost gets very expensive very fast because you start getting into rarer and rarer items. Here we're just doing a little bit of a sanctuary run, trying to get as much loot as we can, kill these rad roaches, and pretty much try and get XP as fast as we can so we can finish clearing out Sanctuary, because the first time I played Survival, I didn't know that bullet flies and everything did more damage than I was used to, or just things did more damage to me in general. So, I died my first few times quite a lot, actually. And then I figured out that there's this awesome perk called Life Giver that gives you an extra 20 points of health, which means I don't get stun locked and or 3-shot at the beginning of the game. That in mind, I spend the first 5 minutes of the game just trying to get past level 1 just so I can get Life Giver. And then I clear out the rest of Sanctuary and hopefully can get to level 2 so I can either get a crafting perk or, well, actually, level 2 for survival ends up not being a crafting perk and ends up being carry weight, because you have 0 unless you're a strength build, which we kind of are right now, but we don't have 6 in strength yet. I think we have 5. So the 6 point in strength is going to come into pretty much going into our pre-roar house right here and going under Sean's bed and picking up the I Am Special book and just putting it immediately into strength, and that's going to give us our, when we get our second perk point, we can just instantly drop about an extra 30 or 40 pounds of carry weight, and then later in the game we can stack that with Lone Wanderer, and then we end up with about 200 and something carry weight. And as long as you're not carrying companions around with you, the carry weights you start getting by yourself are absolutely ridiculous. I think there was one character when I was doing a crazy modded playthrough, got like 400 carry weight just cause and I wasn't even running power on it at the time, so it was getting a little ridiculous. But yeah, another cool note is that the things you fight do tend to not only carry radiation, but they also carry diseases. So yeah, there's that. Meanwhile, that I want to say mailbox. That mailbox always gives you 2 grenades, and it is always good to go do the mailbox drifter run just so that you have armor at the beginning of the game. You don't have to do this at the end. You can do this at the beginning, and you can pretty much just go back in the Sanctuary and clear the rest of it out. It's just a really cool little thing you can do. This is kind of just like my small little introductory loot run after I get my first perk out of the way, just so that I can not get one shot while I'm trying to do commentary. It's the greatest thing ever to do, you know what I mean? But there's a med box right here. Sometimes it has some antibiotics, sometimes it doesn't. You always want to keep note of where the med boxes are so you can get as many meds as possible, because in survival you pretty much need all the miscellaneous aid that you can grab. As I am trying to get used to iron sights again in this playthrough, because I am not used to not playing a game with Weapons of Fate uninstalled. Weapons of Fate is a mod that gives your guns ballistic, pretty much like your rounds more ballistic properties. So bullets behave like bullets, essentially. They have bullet drop, they have bullet speed, you have to lead targets. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Well, this is how I usually try and take this house. I kind of sit near the entryways and strafe back and forth so that when they launch a larvae, they miss by like an inch. It's pretty much the easiest way not to get hit by the low-level bloatflies. I think the high-level ones have such a high rate of fire, you can't really dodge them all, and it's probably more advantageous to just bats them. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this introductory video on the Sanctuary run, as I kind of just try and wrap up here, grabbing all of the loot from the safe, which you usually want to grab everything in Sanctuary just to build up your empire. But after you clear Sanctuary, it's probably the best time to save, so I'm just clearing a bunch of stuff over here, just making sure everything's nice and neat for the next time that I go through. Probably going to have a pain in the ass trying to edit the audio for this flipping video, but thought I'd give you guys something. I've been pretty much radio silent since the streams, and there hasn't really been much room for me to kind of commentate on anything else, so I thought, why not do Fallout in third person? Doesn't take much effort to commentate. I can write everything down. I can just release mad videos whenever, and we're all set. Last pro tip before I do leave the stream, though: if you have Nuka World installed, make Nuka World, Automatron, and the like installed. Make sure you install sinks everywhere on survival. It's free water. No concrete, just steel. I think you only need 5 pieces. Free water. It's amazing. But that's it for the video. I will catch you guys on the flip side of a quarter on my next upload. Peace.